In 2010, I was driving from New Orleans, Louisiana to Eugene, Oregon. It was just me and my 2-year-old pit bull in a 14-foot U-Haul truck with everything I owned crammed into the back. I also had a fancy flip phone for the time, and my printout of the MapQuest directions. I think the first smartphones actually came out around that time, but I didn't have one. Cell phone service was also much spottier, and there were long stretches through the desert where I had zero service for hundreds of miles. I was driving a lonely stretch of highway through central Texas when I realized I hadn't seen a town or exit for a very long time, and my giant U-Haul was really low on gas. Just when I started to freak out and seriously run low on gas, I see a small town coming up. I pull into this town, and it's tiny. I was so worried about other things that I never did pay attention to the name of the town, but there were only about 6 streets in the whole place. I go gas up, and am ready to get back on the road. Except I cannot for the life of me find my way back to the highway. I circle the town about 4 times, and start getting frustrated because this town is such a tiny town. How can I not find my way out? I can literally see the highway but can't get to it. I returned to the gas station to ask for directions. When I got gas earlier, I paid at the pump and never went in. And when I entered for directions, there's a skinny nondescript guy who has black hair hanging down in front of his eyes that looks like it could use a good wash. He's not particularly creepy, but a little rude. He never really met my eyes. He was looking down at a magazine. He gives me directions that don't sound right at all. He's telling me to take a road that will get me on the highway in about 17 miles. For a moment I am dumbfounded. Then I point out that I didn't drive that far to get from the highway into town. Why so far to get back to the highway? I can literally see it from the town. He is so casual, almost like I'm just an annoyance and can follow his directions or not. Why should he care? He gives me some explanation about the road curving around that doesn't really make sense. He still doesn't look at me. Just whatever. I gave you your directions, and waved his hand in the direction of the door. When I got into the parking lot, my whole body started trembling violently, and my heart started racing, seemingly for no reason. I get into the truck, and as soon as I put the key into the ignition, I burst into tears. I had the most terrible feeling that no matter how nonchalant he acted, this man had bad intentions. I didn't know what, but I knew right then and there that there was no way I was following his directions. Yet this was the only store in this little town, and short of knocking on doors, there was no one else to ask for directions. I decided I didn't give a shit if this town seemed like something dropped out of the Twilight Zone. I was going to drive around until I found my own way out, even if it took all damn night. Then a big red pickup truck, as much rust as metal, pulls up and your typical Texas man hops out. Huge, husky, and in a flannel and work boots. Without even thinking about it, I jumped out of the truck and approached him quickly, yet warily. Looking into his eyes, I saw a kind human being, or at least I was hoping I did. I asked him if he could please give me the directions to the highway. I told him I knew it was silly, but I just couldn't seem to find my way back. He looked concerned as I was visibly upset, so he made me laugh and very cheerfully gave me directions for a hairpin curve turnoff right at the end of a small concrete tunnel I passed several times. He set it off and confused travelers because it was so hard to see. They need to put signs, etc. With a sinking feeling in my stomach, I asked him how far in miles was it back to the highway. He laughed and gave me a funny look. Miles, miss? I'd say it's a quarter mile at most. You can see the highway right from here. At this point I couldn't help it. I had to know. What happens if I drive? And I gave him the directions the man in the store had given me. Texas looked at me very intently and asked me how I knew about this route. It was pretty far out and usually only locals know about it, so I told him. He was quiet for a few minutes and then asked what the intendant looked like and if I had a map of the state. Nope, just my MapQuest, which wasn't helpful in this situation. He goes to his truck and grabs a raggedy local map from his glove box. Spreading it out for me, he traces the route I described. The way the man from the gas station had told me to go led away from town, away from the interstate, and led to seemingly the middle of nowhere. Texas told me that the road did go about 17 miles, right before it dead-ended into the desert. I asked him what was out there, and he told me that it was nothing but some junked-up cars and a few trailers and mobile homes, all owned by the same family. This family was known locally as troublemakers, meth heads, and alcoholics, and these were the nice things townspeople had to say about them. The erstwhile clerk was part of his family and lived down that road. I'll never forget the look in Texas's eyes as he told me this. He also told me that I was smart to listen to my instincts, and he told me to be careful traveling out there. I don't know if the man from the gas station wanted what was in the back of my U-Haul or what was in the driver's seat, but thankfully I didn't have to find out. Oh, and I learned that sometimes angels look like ruddy-haired Texans with scruffy faces and rusty pickups. Thank you, random Texas stranger. You really saved my ass, and I will always remember you with tons of love. Sorry I didn't ask your name. You're forever Texas to me now. The very first time I went to my boyfriend's family's house, we explored the very wooded areas around the house. 30 acres of land. Some hunters go in, but no hikers. Only old logging trails which the original owner of the house probably created. A lot of the trails are not well maintained, with brush and logs over them. One area my boyfriend wanted to show me was off the trail. I hate walking off trail. I hate bushwhacking. And this was in spring, so there were ticks. He brings me to a huge boulder he calls Dragon Mountain. Normal boulder, near a very small stream. He climbs up and then helps me up. It was much taller than me, but by no means gargantuan. We sit on the boulder, then lie down looking up into the trees, talking. I am on the left, my boyfriend is on the right. I don't remember if we heard the crunching of leaves first or saw them first, but to our east, 3 adult men, all wearing black or dark navy blue from head to toe, and sunglasses, are walking towards the boulder carrying a large long black tube. All 3 of them are carrying it together, and none of them are talking. They are just walking, carrying this thing. My boyfriend and I are extremely still. We did not get the urge to say hello or something to them, like we would to normal people we encounter hiking in the woods. They are walking towards us, but we don't think they can see us, because we are lying in a sort of large divot in the top of the boulder. We can hear the men walk behind where we are on the boulder. Then when they are out to our southwest, very near the boulder, they stop completely. They do not talk or make any noise. Naturally, my boyfriend and I stay silent and still. We are looking at each other, trying to take this in. It felt like a long time that there were no walking noises. The men then walked sort of around the left of us and the boulder, then walked off toward our northwest. They were still, not talking at all, just walking through the woods holding their black tube. We were very weirded out for a long time after this, and we got out of those woods pretty quickly in a direction away from them, opting to get to the road and follow that home instead of taking the quickest route towards the house, which was pretty much in their direction. We have both racked our brains for years about this, coming up with all kinds of explanations. My boyfriend later realized that the direction they came from is a major highway, where there is a fence as well. We conjectured they may have been hunters, with the black tube being a device to carry a deer. But a lot of hunters live around there and tend to wear camouflage and orange, not all black or navy or dark colors in general. I get if they were hunting, they would likely be quiet, but they did make a fair amount of noise with their footsteps. Why did they stop? It just did not seem like three normal guys going through the woods. I forget about this encounter periodically, but when I suddenly remember it, I cannot explain why I felt the way I felt. We both had the instinct to hide and be silent.